Hi, and welcome to the Tired Witches podcast. I'm Olivia, joined by my lovely co-host Ashley, and today we are starting our deep dive into the Boys of Tommen series. This coincides with Ashley's 3-year anniversary of reading this series. Ashley, this was your idea. How are you feeling about this?
I'm so excited, and actually today is the 3-year anniversary of when I first opened the book. This is just something we've been talking about for a while. We talked about it over the summer, actually, on a lot of lives. Just people, we're kind of doing like little mini deep dives with each weekly live, and then it kind of got to a point where I'm like, you know what? Let's just do the entire thing. This is not new. Deep dives are a very normal thing. They've been around for quite a while, especially if you are in a lot of nerd fandoms, with movies and stuff like that. They are everywhere. And in the book community, you can find ACOTAR deep dives, you can find Fourth Wing deep dives. And so we thought with this series and with how many fights and just how many discussions there are daily with reading comprehension and what people take from this series, we thought, you know what? Let's do a Boys of Tommen deep dive, and let's do it right.
Yes, and I'm so excited for this. My hand has been cramping up for taking notes. Now, how this will work is we're going 10 chapters at a time. We're not diving into the whole book. That would just be such a long podcast.
We'll be here for 10 hours.
We'll be here for longer than that.
Yeah, probably.
It would be rough. Knowing our notes and how deep
I'm a little nervous about this first episode.
Me too.
Because I know a lot of people, because I'm going to go back again with like the ACOTAR and Fourth Wing deep dives. People will normally deep dive about 5 chapters at a time. And I told Olivia, I'm like, well, this isn't fantasy. Maybe we could do 10. And then I'm taking notes, and just chapter 1 and 2, I'm like, my hand is hurting.
We're texting each other like, oh my God. Like, there's so much, just in chapter 1, there's so much information in chapter 1 alone. I'm like, yes. My hand cramped up. I had to get my little hand massager out.
Yeah, so don't worry, you guys. We both took extensive notes. You're going to get 2 different perspectives here. You're also going to get 2 different perspectives in the sense that I've been reading the series for several years, so I've gone back and done several rereads over that time. Olivia is newer to the series, so she binged it all in the spring and then has gone back in when we are theorizing about stuff like that. So you're just going to get 2 very different perspectives here, and we are very excited to share that with you.
Yes, let's just jump right into this, because this is going to be a long one, guys. So get your popcorn, get your cauldron, let's sit down and let's get into this. But First, we do have a little bit of a disclaimer for you. Ashley, go ahead and give it to him.
Yes. Now, before we dive in, the Boys of Tommen series does deal with some deeply heavy, emotional, and triggering themes. Since we are breaking down the books in detail, these topics will naturally come up in our discussions. Please take care of yourself. If you need to pause, if you can't listen to certain topics, please skip ahead. As always, we will have timestamps.
Yes. Please, we are not responsible for your mental health. Trigger warnings, you know what it is. If you've read the book before, you know the deeper we go into the series, the heavier the trigger warning. So please be mindful of that. And let's go ahead and get right into this. We start the series off January 10th, 2005, and that is the first day of school for Shannon at Tommen. And this is chapter 1. What kind of notes did you pull from this? I'm very curious.
Well, I just want to say that it is mentioned right away about Shannon's anxiety and her throwing up issues. Yes. Because I know that this has been another topic about how a lot of people are taking this as Shannon having an eating disorder. This is not an eating disorder. In fact, Olivia will know this because I've had a lot of personal things in my life. I have a chronic stomach condition that causes me to throw up from high anxiety, and I'm actually experiencing that right now. This is not an eating disorder. Okay, this is not an eating disorder.
Shannon specifically says, I'm not anorexic and I'm not bulimic. There's a full sentence where she says that. She gets stressed and throws up. Yes. That is the cause of her vomiting incidents at school.
And it's one of the first things that is mentioned in this chapter. Now, also, I want to note that on this very first page, I would like everybody to remember the paragraph where Shannon is describing herself as not being pretty and awkward looking. I want everybody to remember this description of herself for when Johnny will describe her when he first sees her. I thought
Yes.
that was just a very interesting comparison.
Also love this quote, and I highlighted it. We mature with damage, not with
I have that
age.
as well. So, Shannon is described as being mature and an old soul, and she ages with damage, which lines up with her and Joey arguably being the most mature characters in the
Yes.
entire core 10. They've
Well,
had to.
I also think this can tie into people saying that a lot of these kids are not realistically, they're too mature, like the Hugh Biggs. But what did Hugh Biggs go through as a kid? The trauma and the damage.
Exactly.
And so
Yeah.
he had to mature with age. That's just
Yes.
what happens. We also get a full depth analysis here of Shannon noting that she has never felt attraction towards anybody, whether it be of the same sex or the opposite sex. So she felt that she was kind of damaged in that way.
She makes it very clear that watching her parents' love story made
Yes.
her not want anyone of her own.
And this is very important later for when we meet Johnny, because both of them have these messed up expectations of relationships, but for different reasons. So I think that's important to note there, because we'll get into it deeper as we get further into the chapters here. We also find out that Shannon has been bullied since she was 4 years old.
Yes, and I thought this was very interesting because she mentions how she's just always been unwanted, and I think that
Yes.
theme goes throughout her entire life because she's unwanted at school and she's also unwanted at home as well.
Yes. And we kind of already in chapter 1 get what her home life is like. She has a neglectful mother. It is stated here that her mother does not really step in or notice things, right? From chapter 1. You can kind of tell that her parents are neglectful.
And also, too, Shannon kind of keeps a lot to herself because she just knows it's going to stress out her mother. That's another thing I want to point out is the things that Joey and Shannon do to protect Marie's well-being.
We also note that she's only made a couple of close friends, and those friends are Claire and Lizzie, whose friendship made school bearable for her while she was in primary and secondary school. And then when Claire and Lizzie were pulled, she was just terrified. She knew things were going to get worse for her, and she was back to being alone.
Yep, and then I have how it's in contrast to Joey, who has always been liked by his peers.
Yeah.
And then just no matter where she goes, what school setting, people just see her as a target.
And to go back to the vomiting thing, she says, I did vomit and it was a frequent event. And it was a direct response to the unbearable weight of the stress I was under. I was also small for my age, short, undeveloped, and skinny, which didn't help in my cause in warding off the rumors.
This
That
is
she
not
had
an
an
eating
eating
disorder. This is anxiety
Yes.
filled.
This also, because of all this stress, causes her to be delayed in a lot of other areas of life. Like she got her period at a later age or whatnot. And she feels super undeveloped.
And this is something that, since we took so much note in chapter 1 about Shannon and her appearance and things like that, this is something we want to keep track of. Because we all know that the Shannon in T7 is very different than the Shannon here. And I want to see how she gets to be that.
Yes. We also note that as with Claire and Lizzie, her also biggest supporter here is Joey. Right off the bat, it stated that he was always defending her, telling her that they were hating on her because they were jealous of her, telling her to rise above it, constantly calling her gorgeous, trying to uplift her.
We actually get quite a lot of Lynch info set up in this first chapter.
Very much so.
She talks about how much she loves Joey, and then she also talks about how much she still holds a candle for Darren. Now, this is what I want to discuss a little bit because this is something I just noticed in this reread. So she talks about how Darren left after another blow up. Now, we know that Darren leaves Joey's first day of school, right? Which would have been in August. Now, Shannon specifies that Darren had quit hurling to focus on his last year of school and studying, and that is really what caused a lot of this build up. And it was this final fight that caused him to leave. So I'm just wondering if he was already out of school at that point and hurling just would have already been on the back burner. He's already graduated. Why are they having this final blow up in August?
Well, so it's a big thing because it states here that Teddy had a big problem with Darren being gay.
Yes.
Like that it was a huge thing in the household.
Then
I'm going to assume so because it's stated here that it was a big thing.
We'll cover obviously that more when we get more info on Darren, but yeah, I don't think we actually know when he came out.
No, we don't.
Okay.
And there's a line here that I think is very interesting. Darren was born gay, the same way Joey was born straight, and I was born empty. So she thinks she's unlikable, she's empty. There's something already. She's a deeply insecure girl.
Her entire life she has
Yeah.
felt unwanted except for a few select people. But now it does say that after he left, all the pressure went to the other boys. And then Shannon also states that she feels so much guilt that for all the pressure that's on Joey.
Yes. And that he had a part-time job, he had the hurling, he had to focus on the leaving cert and then his girlfriend. So these are kind of just just info dumping about her relationship at home and her siblings.
In this first chapter, you really just get this sense of the character of Joey Lynch and how just I'm gonna cry just how amazing Joey is. But
I cried rereading this first chapter.
I mean, I also started my period, so there's that too. But so we know Joey, he's trying to coax Shannon. It's going to be okay. We also know from Redeeming 6 in Joey's POV in this time, he is I think he has more anxiety than Shannon about this first day of school, honestly. And he tries to give her money and she's like, no. And so Shannon...
I was bawling rereading this scene, you guys.
Yeah, Joey gives up so much for Shannon, but she doesn't want him to.
When she notes that he woke up just to see her off, I was like, oh, God.
Exactly. Yeah. And so their dynamic is set up in this first chapter.
Yes.
She even says it was just the two of us, the two amigos.
Yep. So you already know that they're very close from chapter 1. You also find out that here her mom got pregnant at the age of 15, and her dad, Teddy, stopped working when Shannon was 7 years old. He hasn't worked since then. And he kind of gets money from the government.
Yeah, and then I wrote kind of one final note for chapter 1, just because going back to how both Joey and Shannon, they don't want to burden Marie more, right? And so Shannon takes on Marie's burden and pain because she doesn't want to be a financial burden, sucking it up for the bullying and not bringing up a lot of it, because Marie will kind of bring that back around when she gets to the school and Shannon says something, well, I would have told you, Mom, and she would be like, no, we know how that goes.
We also find out here what her breaking point was for the parents to finally, Marie specifically, to pull her from BCS. And it's that she was physically assaulted. Joey found out, and then he beat up the girl's brother, and that caused him to be suspended.
And we get a lot of that backstory in Saving 6.
Yes. But once again, goes to show you how Joey was always defending Shannon. She states here that she sat at school with Joey at the lunch table with Joey and his friends. She felt like a hanger-on at certain points in times, right?
Yes.
So we know that Teddy did not want her to go to Tommen, of course, thinking he thought Shannon was better than everybody for going to this school and whatnot.
So Shannon had stated that she had made suggestions back in the day when she was separated from Claire and Lizzie about moving in with an aunt, and Teddy wouldn't hear of it. And this is what I just find so interesting about Teddy Lynch and just how evil and controlling he is, because he's always bitching about Shannon and making these comments about how, what use is she? Just another mouth to feed. She's not a boy. She's not an athlete. What can she do? So I find it interesting that she tried to take matters into her own hand and live with someone else, but Teddy, just being the devil that he is,
wouldn't let it happen.
Yeah.
But that would have solved, he didn't want her around. It would have solved so many
problems.
That's what
I'm saying. He was constantly telling her he didn't want her. So, and doesn't he tell her that he convinced Marie to leave her at the hospital when she was born? I think I remember this.
Yeah. She
Mm-hmm.
said that she grew up with him basically telling her whole life he didn't want her.
Yeah.
Well, then let her go.
Exactly.
Let her go be happier, because she was being relentlessly bullied at home and at school.
Exactly.
It's crazy. You also find out here that because of her, she lives in Elks Terrace, I believe it's what it's called. Yes.
Elks Terrace.
And so you kind of get that's the poorer side of this town.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's
That's
kind of
really
the
the
big info
setup of
dump we have.
chapter 1. Just like I
Chapter
said,
1.
you get a lot on Shannon and who she is, what she's been dealing with, and then you get a lot of the Lynch backstory. And then I just, once again, think Chloe does a really great job at setting up how important Joey is in just that very small frame. All right, so I want to say for chapter 2, right off the bat, Shannon notes how different the behavior of the Tommen students are.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really, really thinking about this, and I was thinking about environment and upbringing. You know, we were teenagers around this time, and I don't know about you, but I know that, like, the kids around my age that were a little harder came from lower tax bracket households.
I don't know. I grew up in a lower tax bracket household. um, and I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's because I grew up in Colorado. Um, we didn't really have bullies and whatnot, at least not at my school. It wasn't like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'm not sure if that's something you dealt with.
I mean, I dealt with the bullying. I mean, I definitely see a lot of myself in Shannon, but in terms of like this really vicious, I mean, there were girl fist fights. I remember that. I mean, Bad Girls Club was airing around this time. So, but I don't know, this just really stood out to me about how right away she notes that the behavior of this Tommen students are different. And then she also, says that again about how after the rugby ball incident, she comes back to school and nobody's saying anything. Now we know Johnny had a big part of that, but I don't know if anybody would have said anything without his interference, because it seems to me like people just go about their day.
See, I'm gonna dispute that, because then the bullying does kind of start picking up
because
for
of her
her.
panties.
But yeah, I'm not even saying that. I'm saying Bella starts coming for her, and then what is that fucking guy's name? It's not Pierce. It's the bully here in this book.
Ronan.
Yeah. He's kind of starts trying to go in on Shannon as well. So there
it's not
are
until
moments.
they know who she is. I'm just talking about the simple fact of her existing, because she has always made it clear that just being small and different, she walks in a room and they're like, oh, I'm gonna bully you. Now we learn further as we get into the 13 duet, because Shannon was under the impression that she was always bullied by females and males alike because of how weird she was. We learn later on that it was actually because these guys have always found Shannon attractive.
Yeah.
And the girls were jealous.
Yeah. Also, I did note here, because I think it's very interesting. We know, and I did talk to you about a little this. It's been 2 years since Claire and Shannon and Lizzie had all been really together at this point, correct?
They would have been together 6th class. So that would have been about 12 or 13. Because
I was very curious as to why they don't meet Shannon at school on the first day. Like, they don't meet her there the first day when they know she had prior issues at schools. I found on this reread, I find that interesting that Shannon shows up and.
Well, also though, Shannon got there early and Claire ran in to meet her right away. So I think Claire got there early.
It was only 15 minutes before school started, so Claire didn't arrive much earlier, because I'm looking at it right here. She was studying her timetable, memorizing, and then 15 minutes before the start of the school day, someone's voice came ringing out. Oh my god, a tall, curvaceous blonde with a smile the size of a football pitch squealed loudly, drawing my attention and everyone else's as she barreled through several groups of students in her bid to reach me.
I think, in defense of Claire, I think we also have to remember the girls don't drive.
I'm not blaming Claire. I said both Claire and Lizzie. I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, no, I think the girls don't drive. I think the girls really rely on transportation a lot on the guys.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Why do none of the girls drive?
That is weird. Because, then you have Aoife's whole thing where Aoife has a car.
Yeah.
But it's basically Joey's car.
Interesting.
Okay, so I would like to get into how Shannon describes her friends. So, as Olivia pointed out, Claire is described as being a curvaceous blonde and
tall, curvaceous.
a smile the size of a football pitch. 5'9", athletic build, and exceptionally beautiful, with puppy dog brown eyes and ringlets of light blonde curls. She had a sunny disposition and a smile that could warm the coldest of hearts. Shannon could feel the kindness running out of her since age 4. And then here is what I think is very important. She knew the difference between right and wrong and was prepared to step in for people weaker than her. A keeper.
Yeah. Also, I think this is very interesting because, number one, I did not know Claire was 5'9". My God. So,
I know. I'm just picked because I'm 5'2".
I'm 5'2".
Picturing Shannon, because Johnny mentions later on that Shannon was always in the middle of her 2 blonde bodyguards, and I'm just picturing like these Amazon like women.
Seriously. Oh my God. I did not know Claire was that tall. I thought
Yes.
Lizzie was the tall one.
I know.
Good God. I think Claire's not description, but the way she looks Shannon up and down, and she specifically says here, oh crap, sorry, I forgot you haven't grown since 4th class. Make that 3rd class, she sniggered. Here's what I think is interesting. Claire can make these comments and no one bats an eye at it. But then Lizzie makes little remarks and Claire's like, don't be a bitch. Or like, don't, like, she's considered snarky and rude towards people. You know, I just think those are interesting comparisons to point out here. Because
I think it just goes back to the fact of that Claire is labeled to be a sunny disposition, a smile the size of a football pitch. So you're supposed to overlook that. Whereas Lizzie, you're supposed to dissect each piece.
Because even Shannon says here, we can't all be beanpoles, I shot back good-naturedly, knowing her words were not meant to hurt me. So she says that about what Claire had said to her earlier before. So I just find it interesting that people pick apart Lizzie, every single thing, saying she's mean or bullying her friends, not understanding that these are just friendship dynamics. Like, if you've been in a girlfriend group, like these comments are nothing. Like, truly nothing.
Exactly.
So then we also note here, Claire states that I find this so interesting with this school, and I note this here. Claire's like, Lizzie, I'm here for you, and Lizzie too, if she ever decides to drag her ass out of bed and actually come to school. This is the first day of school, and the principal is allowing students to show up late or leave early like Johnny does later on. What is wrong with this
school? For this one now. Okay, this is January 10th. It was over the weekend, Olivia. What happened this previous weekend?
Oh, wasn't it a 90s party?
It was the 90s party. Yes. So we talked a lot about this in our 2005 timeline. Yes, we know that a lot of details happen at this 90s party. That's very interesting. And so the fact that Claire notes that Lizzie is not on time that day, I thought that was interesting, but it was this next part that I was like, what is this here? Okay, so then we get to the part where Shannon describes Lizzie, when Lizzie shows up. So Lizzie shows up halfway through 3rd period, okay? And she is wearing a boys' school trousers. Now, I thought the wording here was very interesting because it doesn't say boys' school trousers. It says a boys' school trousers and runners. So, just a little theory side here. I think that Hughie and Lizzie were hanging out together all weekend long. And Lizzie just rolled into school wearing Hughie's pants and shoes. So...
Also would like to note, because there's been a lot of dispute on Lizzie not being attractive, or the only person finding Lizzie attractive is Hughie. When it is noted here, per Shannon, I also noted all through our classes that Lizzie received plenty of male attention, regardless of the baggy trousers and messy hair she was sporting, proving the point that you don't need to strip down and paint your face to attract the opposite sex. A genuine smile and a nice personality went a long way.
Yep.
So she describes Lizzie as having a genuine smile and a nice personality who gets plenty of male attention.
Yep. And then when we describe a little bit more about her, Shannon describes her as dressing according to her mood and projected vibes the same way. She did what she wanted to do when she wanted to do, unaware and uncaring of anyone else's opinion. She oozed a lazy sort of confidence with her long, dark blonde hair, because a lot of people have fan casted Lizzie with like really light blonde hair, swishing ponytail, and makeup-free face, emphasizing those big blue eyes of hers. And then that is when Shannon notes that Lizzie received male attention all throughout classes.
Also want to point out the very stark differences
Yes,
in the
because that
personalities
is
of
when
Claire and Lizzie here.
Yes, because she describes Lizzie, and then she talks about how similar they both are, but they're starkly different. So in their similarities, they are both blonde and leggy, tall for their age, and both sickeningly beautiful. And then where Claire is described as outgoing and a little overly excited, Lizzie was laid back and slightly introverted.
This is what I find very interesting about the way Shannon describes their personalities, because she describes Lizzie as laid back, right? A lot of people think that she's some stuck-up, snarky bitch going around bitching out everybody. But Shannon describes her here as, number one, having a nice personality and being fairly laid back. Also, Claire was mostly unfiltered. That is not what you hear Claire described as, right? You hear Claire described as the sunshiny one. It's Lizzie who's the unfiltered, mean one who doesn't think before she speaks.
Claire being described as unfiltered in this chapter 2 of book 1 is very important to remember when we get to the events of Taming 7.
Agreed, 100%. Yeah, so I think it's the Shannon's description of her friends here is very, very interesting to note. And once again, perspective matters, because the perspective for these people and of these people is going to change based on who we're reading the POVs of, right?
Yeah,
So,
and that's why I just want to say that for so much detail right here, just in our first introduction of these two friends, just shows me Chloe has always known what the hell she was doing, and she has always had these characters and their backstories planned.
yes. I also want to note that Lizzie right off the bat is hesitant to let Shannon be alone, right? Shannon leaves her phone in the bathroom and says she's going to go get it. And Lizzie is the one who speaks up and goes, we'll go with you. And Shannon's like, no, 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 no. And it says here, Lizzie is very hesitant to let Shannon go alone because she doesn't want Shannon to be bullied or whatnot or feel like she doesn't have support. So Lizzie right off the bat is there for Shannon.
Yep. Absolutely. And then right after that, this is where our story gets going. This is where Shannon notes that she has left her phone in the bathroom. And I actually wrote this down in my last reread when I was annotating, but I realized that this was a butterfly effect. This whole thing right here was a butterfly effect. And for those of you that do not know what that is, it is the phenomenon whereby a minute localized change in a complex system can have large effects elsewhere. So let's look at this, right? Okay, so if Shannon never leaves her phone in that bathroom, then she never goes on that rugby pitch. Johnny never throws that ball, never hitting her, never meeting her. Thus, Shannon and all of her siblings will die in that fire. And Joey will be alone.
Yeah. I know.
I hate that. I hate that. So I have...
All because she left her phone there.
But here's where I want to say that I think Chloe makes it very intentional that this was meant to be. Because not just the phone, but we also have Claire and Lizzie both insisting to come with her. And I think this is interesting because with Shannon's anxiety, I would think she'd be like,
me too.
Please come with me. Because, like I've said a little bit, I see a lot of myself in Shannon with anxiety. With me, I'd be like, yes, Olivia, hold my hand. Take me across the school to get my phone, please. She was very like, no, I don't need the both of you. So that's step 2 in this butterfly effect. She went alone.
Yeah. I think it's important to note here, though, that is also the difference in already seeing the difference in personality and confidence in Shannon just by being around Claire and Lizzie.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I will get more into detail when we get to the next chapter and the next perspective, but Johnny was also in a really bad mood that day, which caused him to kick the rugby ball. So if you don't have Johnny in a bad mood either... Angry. This doesn't happen. So I just find this entire butterfly effect to be extremely fascinating.
Yeah. So jumping right into chapter 3, where we meet Captain Fantastic, Johnny Kavanagh. Guys, this is my first Boys of Tommen merch I ever purchased.
I love it.
For my Johnny Kavanagh. So as we're introduced to Johnny, we kind of know right off the bat, it starts off with that headline, Boy Wonder captivates the coaching staff at the academy. And then we go into Johnny.
Quickly, I made an important note about that news article.
Okay.
So the news article states that he sailed through his medical evaluation.
Mm-hmm.
How hard were they looking?
They were looking the other way.
Yeah.
They were looking the other way.
I thought that was really interesting that it is stated in the news article that he sailed through it.
Yeah. Also, it says that he was nursing a chronic groin injury since the start of last season. The youth has been given the all clear from team doctors.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fascinating.
And while we get a really good setup of Shannon and who she is in chapter 1, we get a great setup of who Johnny is in chapter 3. He really lays out his schedule, his life, and how basically, I want to say, I think the guy has some OCD tendencies to him.
Oh, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Control issues.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Severe control issues. Yeah.
He has an obsessive personality.
Mm-hmm.
And it really comes down to the way he eats, the way he controls his life. That's trauma.
He literally says he needs to eat every 2 hours.
Yes.
Like, he has it down. He knows his schedule.
Yeah, and he says he notes being hungry and how it doesn't do well for his temper and going long between meals.
I also think it's interesting to note here how do I word this? Hard he is on his teammates around him.
Hey, okay? I have that too. So, like I said, he is in a mood, and in his mind, he's not even talking yet to any characters. Yeah. This is all his perspective. He's referring to his teammates as boys. Mm-hmm. He plays with men. School level was beneath him. And then he goes on to resent his parents and their move from Dublin, how if he had stayed in Dublin, he would be playing with people that were up to his level. But then he does change it a little bit and say that there are about 6 or 7 guys on the team that do have talent. He can count on them. He talks about Gibsie as a prime example of exceptional.
But let's talk about his description of Gibsie here, okay? Because he straight says here, was a prime example of exceptional. He was without a shadow of a doubt the best flanker I'd played with or against in this level of rugby and could easily move up the ranks with a little commitment and effort. Unlike me, though, rugby wasn't Gibsie's life. If he laid off the drink and cigarettes, he'd be phenomenal. Gibsie wasn't so convinced, though, choosing to spend quality training time fucking his way through the female population with relish and drinking until his liver and pancreas cried out in protest. It's a dreadful waste. Very fascinating.
So Johnny's perception of his best friend is that Gibsie will stick it in anything. Okay? Now, after that, then he is still talking about his teammates, and I thought this was interesting. He said Patrick is the newest number 12.
Pick that up, too. He says, another overthrow pass from Patrick Feely, our newest number 12.
Okay, so take me back to R10. Was Feely not always on the team?
I guess was not.
Was he red-shirted? Was he
Is that interesting? Isn't that...
I found that line really interesting. Yeah. Our newest number 12.
Also, he gets super pissed off at Feely and throws his mouth guard right at his face.
Yes. Yes, and then he talks about how when he moved to Ballylagan, he had bonded with Patrick Gibsie and Hughie over rugby. They remained good friends, but then when they got to high school, they paired off in the sense of best friends. Yeah. And then this is when Shannon starts walking.
But I want to note here first that he describes Patrick as a quiet lad.
Yes.
So already you have Johnny noting that Patrick kind of keeps to himself and is very quiet.
Mm-hmm.
So that's very, very important for future stuff going down, I believe. That Johnny points out
that Patrick is very, very quiet.
Yes. Yes.
So then Shannon makes her appearance, and she's walking, and Johnny's just irritated, and I did note he glared at Shannon, feeling a rage that bordered on manic. And I was thinking about this, too, because he's got some anger issues, right? Can you compare that a little bit with Joey?
Ooh, 100%. And then I mean, not only does he have anger issues, but it like starts to build here. Like it is building. He gets angry.
That's
He's
what I'm
already
saying.
thrown.
He's feeling a rage that bordered on manic.
Yes.
And this is over little minuscule things. But like I said, I think it goes back to him being a control freak because it's things he can't control because it's his team that's letting him down. It's his team that's not performing the way he wants. So the things that he cannot control, I think he gets a little intense about it.
Well, and then Ronan comes in here and starts going in on Johnny about his leadership skills, right? Which I also think is very interesting because people are like, Johnny has displayed what a great leader he is this entire time, and he's so in control of the team. But we have here chapter 3.
Our first interaction of him. He doesn't. And also, I thought it was interesting that he notes himself that he spreads himself too thin and he came back too soon after.
Yes.
He admitted that.
Yes, yes.
And then I noted, did you see page 24, his note about pristine discipline?
I noted here that we get Ronan calling him out multiple times, and Johnny in his mind is like, I'm being difficult. I'm making this harder than what it needs to be.
He says either way it was. So I actually had highlighted this in my last reread. So he says the prospect of juggling school, training, club commitments, and the academy while nursing an injury was a strain on both my mind and my body, and I was struggling to find the pristine discipline I usually displayed. Either way, it wasn't an excuse. I would apologize to Patrick after I'd eaten and the rest of the lads too.
And he straight says, I was supposed to be this team's captain, and I was acting like a tool. He calls himself out.
Yes.
Which is very important to me.
Yes.
He knows what's wrong. He's able to clock it.
Now, here is where it gets interesting. So because like I said, if he's not in a bad mood, he doesn't kick that ball. But when he realizes what he did, he runs over instantly. And I want to say, for a guy that's been really in a foul mood for 4 pages straight, his mood instantly changes as soon as he interacts with Shannon.
Yes.
Instantaneous.
Yes.
And he says, with her blue eyes watering, something inside him snapped. His main concern was Shannon, but also with a little hint of not getting in trouble. And then it ends with he was burning up on the inside.
Can we also note, I made a note of this, and how did nobody notice Shannon falling? It's literally she's knocked down, it's crumpled on the ground.
I know, they're like the coaches talking, and they're like, "What? Oh, crap!"
No one noticed, and she falls so badly that her skirt rips, and no one...
this didn't make a sound? I mean, I know the girl's small, and she doesn't weigh anything, but, this didn't make any kind of noise.
I literally put... LOL, no one else noticed her falling and ripping her, to the point where she falls so hard she rips her skirt. Okay, interesting. Also, very interesting here, Shannon immediately confronts Johnny and demands an apology from him.
I know.
Immediately.
She is not scared or anything. Is this your ball?
Yep.
Yep. Yeah.
It says, a glazed over sort of fury blazed in her eyes as she half staggered, half stalked towards me. Jesus Christ, who is this girl, he says. You owe me a skirt, she growled, clutching the fabric by her hip, and a pair of tights, she added, glancing down at the huge ladder in her skin-colored tights. And an apology. Shannon, who from chapter 1 says that she's meek, she's been bullied, she kind of sits back and being quiet. Johnny, she's like, I'm calling you out. Immediately, she feels comfortable enough to call him out and be like, you owe me an apology. She's not afraid. And I think that's important to know.
All right. So then we go instantly into chapter 4 with the lovely chapter of them in the office. And Johnny is instantly interested when he learns she was attacked at BCS.
Can I go back actually a little bit? Because I think it's very interesting to note here back to Johnny's personality and him calling himself out. That there is a specific line here that I underlined that I think it's important to note with Johnny and who he is. She says, why did you do that? And he goes, I'm an asshole. I fuck up a lot. Johnny
Yes.
is his biggest critic.
Yes.
He is his biggest critic, and we get that here in his mind.
And I think it goes back to this discipline that he's just so obsessed with. And, I think it has to do with the fact that his parents are not around. And so he does not have these typical parents that are like lecturing him daily on him. And so it's like he's put it on himself,
Yeah. He also immediately jumps to like the worst, like his anxiety already. He immediately is like, I broke the girl. I'm going to get suspended. I'm going to go to jail.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to note that both Shannon and Johnny have anxiety.
Yeah.
Tendencies.
The racing thoughts, like it just builds and builds.
Yeah.
So you get that here. And then we can get into chapter 4. Oh, how shit the principal is here. Like, number one, how do you not have a nurse the first day of school?
That's such a liability. I feel
What is this? With new students coming in and whatnot, that's so crazy to me.
Okay, but this is why I said let's go back to the first page, okay, of this story and how Shannon describes herself. And I will read it really fast for you guys. She says, my long brown hair was loose and flowing down the middle of my back, pushed back from my face with a plain red hairband. My face was free of makeup, making me look every bit as young and small as I felt. My eyes were too big for my face and a shocking shade of blue to boot. Now we have Johnny's description of Shannon. 11 freckles, blue eyes, big and round, with small hues of yellow dotting through them, rimmed with thick, long eyelashes. She had a striking look about her, but up close was hitting home. She had long, elbow-length, dark brown hair that was thick and curled at the ends.
Also, I want to note here, because this is very important, the principal tells Johnny she was already pulled out of Ballylagan Community School for being verbally and physically attacked. So right off the bat, number one, sharing a student's personal information, interesting. Number two, what's wrong with this school? Number two, he tells Johnny exactly what is going on with Shannon, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this is interesting to note for future chapters when he requests her folder, because he kind of already knows what Shannon went through.
No, and this is why I said he's instantly interested when he hears it, and this is where his obsessive personality comes in.
Yeah,
and Gibsie will point this out later on.
Yeah, he does. And also, I'm sorry, but rereading this, I was like, I forgot how cute Shannon and Johnny are together. Like when she looks at him, she goes, that's really your face? It's so pretty.
I know. It's just so innocent. Now, I will say, Shannon does mention right away her dad, and Johnny does peek up at that, but she drops it.
Yes, but she does it already. She kind of already plans
that. And he instantly was like, come again?
Yes.
Say that again?
And this is not the first time in the first early chapters that she kind of drops something's going on with this.
Yes.
There's not the first time in this chapter we're going to see it, okay? Also, the scene of her falling down onto his crotch. Hilarious. Forget how funny this book was too, honestly.
And then I did think it was really cute that he said that her being worried about being laughed at brought to life some weird fucking emotion I hadn't experienced before.
Yeah.
Okay, then let's because we could talk a lot about.
So here's the second where it's brought up the second time. So you have that where she goes, "This is bad," and he goes, "What's bad?" And she goes, "My dad." "Your dad? Can you save me?" And he goes, "Do you need me to save you?" And she drops it. But then, literally the very next page, page 33, he's trailing her scarf. "What happened here? What's this from?" "My dad," she replied. And he's like, Come again? Yeah. And he's like, "Are you telling me your dad did this to you?" And she's like, No. No. And she drops it.
Yeah.
So twice in this first interaction, she's mentioned something going on with her dad. Twice.
Yes. And this is also they have a little bit of, my name is Shannon, like the river. That's when we get that. I'm Johnny. And of course, this is where Johnny really starts his high anxiety of going to prison for Shannon's age.
I was dying.
It's such a running joke.
To me because what is the age difference between Bella and Johnny?
2 years. Now, we are going to get more into Johnny and older women into the next chapter.
Yes.
But I just think for this one, it's so funny because Johnny's literally falling in love right here. He is falling in love. I mean, he's literally saying, please say 17. Please say 7. Like, he wants this.
Yeah. I also want to note here how important it is that she says, I'm sorry. She goes, for what? Hurting you. I replied honestly, it won't happen again. You promise, she asks him. There she went with the promises again. Promises are very big to Shannon, and this ties in to what we learn about Johnny later in I think chapter 9. I have it written down, but already right here, people keeping their promises and their word is very, very important to Shannon, and she makes him promise twice in this chapter alone. So that's important to note for future. Okay, and they're dynamic together as a couple because he never breaks that promise to her.
Yep. Are we ready to get to Marie's entrance?
Oh my fucking god.
Okay, so here's the thing. I think Johnny says it perfectly. He describes Marie as a deranged mother bear.
Also note here, he makes a point to say that he's uncomfortable with pregnant women.
I saw that too.
I was like, oh, okay, interesting. And I also want to note that he states that Marie had a flash of recognition on her face while talking about Johnny. Is that her thinking about Teddy?
And I wrote that too, because I think for her, this was instant terror. For one,
Agreed.
He walks in and Shannon's laying on Johnny.
Yeah, yep. I think her overreaction here is her flashing back to her past.
Exactly.
And that is why she's so damn determined to keep them
we
apart.
learn, I think, in Saving 6 or Redeeming 6 from Aoife's parents that Marie was 14 when Teddy first got with her. So we also learn a lot from Keeping 13. We'll get into that later about how Marie handles Johnny. And this right here, she sees it right here.
Well, I think
scares her
deals with
right
her
away.
reaction of then threatening to call the guards on Johnny,
Yeah.
saying he assaulted Shannon. All that is, in my opinion, she doesn't really think that Johnny assaulted Shannon. She is trying to keep Johnny as far away from Shannon as possible because she does not want Shannon to go down that same route she went through.
Exactly.
So the fact that he clocks that recognition, to me, I was like, she's thinking of Teddy here, right? Also, I think it's important to note here, she straight says in front of everybody, Shannon, I don't know what to do with you anymore. I really don't. I thought this place would be different for you. Kind of putting a little bit of blame on Shannon here, in my opinion.
I know. But it's never Marie's fault, remember?
And Johnny straight says, Christ, this woman was something else.
Yeah. So that is our first introduction to Marie. And I just really think that Johnny describing her as a deranged mother bear, especially knowing where we're going in Keeping 13, is just so on par. It's the
even
as
Johnny's walking away, she yells at him, keep walking, Johnny.
Yeah, she's lost it. Absolutely lost it at this point.
I'm like, you're an adult woman. Rein it in. Like, holy crap.
All right, so then we get into chapter 5, and here's where we are going to learn more about Johnny and who he is intimately as a person. And I find this to be a very interesting topic because I feel like, especially with the guys, a lot of things are slid under the rug. And I don't think people have really talked about the fact that Johnny lost his virginity at 13 to a 16-year-old.
This is what I was saying is so important in the relationship dynamics and how they view relationships. Shannon has a unhealthy view on relationships because of her parents. Johnny has an unhealthy view of relationships because the environment he was raised around in with the coaches and the relationships and the constant and all that. So two very different nature and nurture type of things here. One grew up and saw unhealthy, one was put into an unhealthy situation. And so that skewed their ideals on relationships.
He said that rugby became his life at the age of 10. So like everything changed for him, and women have always viewed him as a status. And the fact that he said he was 13 with a 16-year-old, and this was like ongoing. That's very disturbing. And that 16-year-old took advantage of him. Say what you want. I know that guys tend to have a different attitude, right, about sex and the way they lose their virginity. And I know that around this time, a lot of my guy friends would have been high-fiving each other if a girl 3 years older would have given it to him. But that is sexual assault.
Yes. I also want to note we get a lot of Gibsie and Johnny in this chapter as well. Can you remind me, had Gibsie never met Shannon before this point?
No. No,
Okay.
because Shannon will even say in a later chapter that the only parties she had ever been invited to were Hugh Biggs, but she was
She
not
never
allowed
went.
to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She never went. Also, Gibsie does call Shannon a corker. Page 44, y'all. He calls her a corker. Just like to point that out.
Okay, so
and
corker
then
is not a special term of endearment for people. Just
yeah, no. Also, then he goes on to talk very interesting about Shannon, the way he describes her, to the point where Johnny's like, okay, that's enough, type of deal. But then we get into Gibsie telling him, says the Egypt who's been sticking his in anything with a pulse since first year, right? So not only does Johnny have this interesting perspective of Gibsie, Gibsie also has kind of the same perspective about Johnny, right?
mm-hmm.
Because didn't Johnny describe Gibsie as sticking it in anything with the pulse? And then here we have Gibsie doing it right back to him, you know?
Well, I kind of want to circle a little bit back because I wrote more down. Johnny had said, my childhood was robbed from me because of my ability to play rugby. And then he also said that he uses sex as his reward for being good
Yes.
and controlling everything else in his life.
Yes. We also find out here that he's been with Bella, who's 6-year students, since April of last year. This is January. So how many months? April, May,
He says
June,
8
July,
months.
August,
They've
September,
been
October, November,
yeah, 8
December,
months.
January. Technically, it's 9.
Yeah.
If you do the math.
Well, he said he hadn't been with her since like
he hadn't physically been with her.
Yeah.
He hadn't physically touched her since November, is what he states there. But technically they've been.
But then he does say that for Bella, it's all about status and
Yes.
specifically Johnny's D.
Yes.
But Johnny says he prefers older women and girls for less drama because they usually don't want the strings attached that comes with it. Yeah, see, and I think it's very interesting that he said specifically that he uses sex as his reward for being good and controlling everything else. Okay, so then Johnny goes to the locker room to lay down the law. Okay, and I thought it was very interesting that who is the first person to start laughing?
Pierce. Also, I think it's very interesting to note here that Johnny says, how would you like it if your sisters were talked about this way? And Pierce is like, this to me is then a call back to how Hughie's like, you're not going to ruin Lizzie's reputation and go run your mouth about her sleeping with you and not.
Yep. So Pierce was the first one to laugh, and I'm like, you.
You.
Yes. Now, okay. All right. Here we go. I need to just little disclaimer because this could be a little long bit of a rant. Now, we know that the anti-Lizzies and the anti-Hueys of the world love this new narrative that Hugh Biggs has been rebranded. Okay, I can just tell you that on my 5th, 6th reread of this, just 10 chapters in, I can tell you Hugh Biggs was never rebranded. Okay, in chapter 5, I'm putting my glasses back on, Olivia, because I'm getting serious here. Johnny starts getting into it with Ronan, and who diffuses the argument? Who's the mature one to stop it? Hughie Biggs. This is our first interaction of Hughie Biggs. Hugh stops it.
Read the sentence. Please read the whole sentence. We're
going to find the material here.
It's page 50. The very top of page 50.
Okay. Kid, you need to walk away now. Hughie Biggs, our number 10 and a good friend of mine, interjected with a sigh. You sound like a fucking clown. And Hughie kind of helps because this interaction is just getting heated, and then finally Ronan says something, and he was like, you signed your death sentence. Like, whatever. I can't stop you. But Hugh, his first interaction, he is set up to be a mature guy that is trying to diffuse a situation happening. Okay. I have more on Hughie that we will get into a little bit later, but that is my first description of Hughie Biggs, and I thought that was very interesting.
And then he also notices when Ronan has gone too far, and he's just like, you know what? I'm leaving Johnny.
Yep, you signed your own death sentence here.
Yes,
there you go.
Yes. And so then that's when Johnny gets physical, right?
Yes.
He's like, not one person tried to stop me when I barreled towards Ronan. No one dared. I had hit my quota of bullshit for the day, and the lads knew it. And he throws him up against the wall, slams him up against a concrete wall, stepped in front of him, towering over him by a good 6 inches. My God. Okay.
Right?
You don't like me, I get it. I'm not particularly fond of you either. You don't have to like me, but as your captain, you sure as shit will respect my authority on the pitch. Very, very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
He said,
Yeah.
I could handle his crappy attitude and aggression towards me, but not towards her. Already, he's like,
He's
put
feeling
my
it.
foot down with this girl.
Yeah. So then Johnny goes into a little bit more detail about his injury, how he's been suffering for 18 months. Only Gibsie knows the details. And his past injuries, he's had a ruptured appendix and about 1 million broken bones. He then talks about how serious he is with school. We all know that Johnny is an honor student, and here is where I find something else fascinating. Johnny gets all A's except for one subject.
What subject is that?
Science.
He
specifically says he hates the subject. On page 56, loathes it. Absolutely loathes it. He says, I avoided the 3 science subjects like the plague. They could keep their biology, chemistry, and physics for the hardcore brainiacs. Now, what else is a big dispute we have in this fandom about Hughie Biggs?
He's been rebranded. He's not as smart as the other Johnny. He's described as the smartest guy in the whole school.
Johnny specifically says that he's smart, but he prefers business and accounting. And he says, leave the science to the big brain people.
Rebranded.
Moving on.
Rebranded.
Now, Johnny, also being the large control freak that he is, he has every detail of his life planned out well into his 30s.
No.
And then this was something I had highlighted on my last reread. I think this is really interesting with the stark differences that you get between Adele Kavanagh and Marie Lynch is Johnny says that his mom has begged him to be a child. And we know with Marie will basically tell Joey he has to give up a day with his friends and his girlfriend to handle responsibilities at home.
I do want to note here, though, I do find it interesting that Adele tells Johnny he needs to be a kid, but then she leaves him alone.
See, I find that now here's I love Adele Kavanagh, okay? I will always love Adele Kavanagh, but I think John and Adele took advantage of the fact that their son gets good grades and is a star athlete. That they can just leave him alone like that.
I also find it very interesting because we know from snippets and whatnot that Adele and John and in the book had a hard time conceiving a child. And so why would they leave their only child alone as often as they do when they so desperately wanted this? It's very fascinating to me.
Yeah, I know, which is why I need their POV. I need some type of perspective because, like I said, they, in a sense, they are perfect, but they are not perfect. What they did for the Lynches, absolutely, but I think a lot of that was making up for what they did not do with their own child.
I need some more stuff from John and Adele. I'm going to tell you that now. Yeah. Because it's just very interesting.
But now Johnny does also state that his father has always been easier on him than his mom.
Yeah.
Okay, now here's where it gets a little interesting, and I'm going to leave my glasses on here because we have a lot to dissect here.
Yes.
About D. Okay, so
before we get into the D, I do want to just point out. Before we get into D, I want to point out Bella harassing Johnny immediately here. Yeah. Blowing his phone up.
Yeah.
Like, ridiculous. Even though, like, it's been made clear that he hasn't touched her one eye. Like, it is back-to-back harassment already. And this is only page 58. I can't stand Bella. So I just want to point that out.
Okay. Now, here's what I find interesting right off the bat is that Johnny notes that he's oddly fond
of D. Fond of her. Page 58. Johnny likes D, even knowing that she is a cougar who has a penchant for rugby students.
High school boys, especially rugby students.
Yep.
Now, We have to jump a little bit ahead here to Taming 7 because oh my god, I seriously Huey the hatred of
Let's
Huey
hold
Biggs
off on
needs
that
to be.
because we get more of this later. So we could, but note this, that Johnny describes as being fond of Dee, even knowing that she has a penchant for younger students.
So Johnny being oddly fond of Dee, he mentions obviously he's never done anything with her, but he brings her gifts. He just uses this to his advantage,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay, so Dee will not give him the information that he wants, though, but she does give him her locker number. He leaves some funds inside. And then what I thought was really interesting, though, is he made it a point to apologize to Patrick before doing anything else.
Yeah.
Like, he wanted to make sure that was cleared up. And then also, I thought it was important that he makes it a point that he doesn't care to remember faces or names until now.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so then he also decides to cut out of class for the rest of the day, which I also found interesting for someone that is so perfectionist. I can't miss class, my studies, all of that. He meets Shannon and he's like, screw it. Let's go sit in the car.
Once again, what is wrong with this school? This is the first day of school, and Lizzie's showing up late. Johnny's pissing out early. Where are the teachers? Where's the principals? Where's the authority? Yep. This is insane to me. Yep. Like, I never would have been allowed to do this crap in school, ever.
So he decides to sit in the parking lot until school's over. I mean, you could wait in class, but anyway. So Gibsie comes out. Gibsie brings him the file that Johnny wanted from Dee, and right away, Gibsie says, I knew you wanted this because you're obsessive. Gibsie calls him obsessive, and this is what I'm saying is Johnny has an obsessive personality. He labels it out with the way he eats, the way he trains, his academics, everything, and Shannon is no exception to that.
Let's also note this conversation. How'd you manage to convince Dee to hand it over, I asked, changing the subject. How do you think? I repressed a shudder. Jesus. It's not all bad. The woman sucks like a Hoover, and the thrill of getting caught always makes for fun times. Didn't need to know that, I held a hand up. You already knew that. So,
right away, Johnny doesn't, he's grossed out by it, but he doesn't really see it for what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's important to also note this interaction for words we get straight from Gibbs's mouth.
And a little later on. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so Johnny starts,
also
I wrote this too. Johnny doesn't seem to think anything of Gibbs and Dee when he says, see the sacrifices I make for you. Johnny doesn't say anything. He doesn't make any comment on, that's gross and disgusting.
Yep.
Gibsie literally says, see the sacrifices I make for you, and Johnny does not comment on that. So I find that very interesting. So then, you can read on page, it's 65 of this version, but it has the full details of Shannon's file. And Johnny states that it felt like reading a police report of domestic violence. As I stated earlier, you'll get a lot of the details of what is in that file in Saving Six from Joey's perspective.
We're over an hour and we're halfway through our attention.
We knew this was going to happen. It is 10 o'clock on Friday night. We're partying through. But now we are going to move into chapter 6. And this is why we had a hard time when we were trying to come up with our 2005 timeline, because literally after this first day of school, January 10th, then we skip a month.
We skip a whole month. Mm-hmm. And I do think, though, it is important to note that during that month, Shannon states that she feels really safe because Lizzie and Claire are there, that she's more confident.
And I want to add on to that, because we said in chapter 1, Shannon feels unwanted wherever she goes, and I think school is finally becoming the one place where it feels safe all over, you know?
Agreed. Yes. So I did notice that. So it's been...
she says school was becoming a place of relief. Mm-hmm. And then also I did note this a little just because it's a comparison to what we got in the last chapter about Johnny being good at business and accounting, and Shannon said she's really bad at math and business.
She kept his envelope because Johnny gives her an envelope with money to go buy new clothes, and she kept it under her pillow. How
Come
cute is
on,
that?
you remember your first love, keeping, like,
So
movie stubs
stinking
and napkins from the
cute.
first date, stuff like that.
Lizzie catches on immediately
Okay,
to her
before
obsession.
Lizzie catches on, I wrote this down on page 69. Claire and Lizzie's description of Johnny.
Mm-hmm.
According to the girls, he was aggressive, intense, a complete snob, with a body to die for, and a horrible attitude. And this is coming from Claire and Lizzie.
They made him out to be a cocky, rich rugby head who was obsessed with sports, played hard on the pitch, and fucked harder off of it.
Yep, and then that is when Lizzie caught her staring at Johnny and dished all the info that she had.
Yes.
But then Shannon also states that despite what they said, he oozes confidence and was a natural-born leader. And that she also has said, I didn't write this down, but I remember she said something about how when he looks at her, she sees something different than when he looks at other people. Like it's a different mood or something. Okay, and so then also in this same chapter, it is stated that Lizzie is in a mood after fighting with Pierce.
This is 4 weeks after the first day
So this is going to be
school.
early February. Before we get into the Pierce thing, I did note something else because this is when Claire's having her, like, please come over.
Mm-hmm.
I thought this was important because Shannon just said she can't. And then on page 74, Shannon says deep down, I think she knew. And I have talked about this a lot when it comes to Claire. So, and I thought this part was interesting. Deep down, I think she knew. I never verbalized it and she never pushed. That's why I love her. Claire offered me a huge smile that almost masked the concern in her brown eyes.
Right, but before we even get there, they're talking about how Lizzie was excited. That's all Lizzie'd been talking about is going into town to see Pierce. And then Claire responds with, no, Lizzie's in a mood. I'm guessing they had another fight today. And then you get that, and I also noted it. I think she knew, she never verbalized and never pushed type of deal. That's after that. And right after this, we get our very first interaction of Claire Bear and Gibsie. Okay? Which I find very interesting here. Their dynamic in this book compared to Taming 7, to me, is very different.
Yeah, to me, what it's painted as in here, and you could disagree because we have different perspectives, but to me, it's like they talk at school, they talk at home, but it's not. It's basically Shannon coming. It's what got everybody really hanging out more.
Yeah. Which is interesting because then you get R10 and you know that, like, Gibsie's always been obsessed with Claire and always been, like, flirty with her and whatnot. So for this to be, like, and this goes back to what we get later from Johnny's point of view, he's kind of not done this at school around people, apparently, until Shannon's there.
What I'm saying is, it's like, so was Shannon, like, this big catalyst of really actually forming a Core 10?
Yeah. I don't know.
Maybe.
Maybe.
You know how sometimes, like, I don't know about you, but I had a few friends in high school where we didn't really interact at school. We'd interact more outside of school, but it was because we didn't have any classes together. We just wouldn't see each other.
Well, even in Taming 7, I find their dynamic interesting because we get, and it's later on in the year, I guess, Shannon, but you get Claire really flirting back with Gibsie and everything they say. It is back and forth, flirt, flirt, flirt. Whereas here, Claire's kind of like, ugh, get away from me. You're a player. I don't want.
But like, she even tells Shannon, he'll ride anything in a skirt.
Yeah. So I just
know is not true.
Yes. Yeah. I'm like, that's just such an interesting.
Yeah, I know. I found that first interaction between Gibsie and Claire really interesting.
And then we get into.
Oh, and I do say she does state that she thinks it's all a game to him.
Yes. And then we get into Shannon's description of Hughie Bix.
Okay. I just took my glasses off, but I'm putting them back on. Okay. It is very evident to me right here, Chloe Walsh's love for Hughie Bix. Okay, this is Shannon's description of Hughie. Shannon, okay? She describes Hughie as Claire's beautiful older brother. And then she has like a little bit of a description of him. Light blonde hair and brown eyes, the male equivalent of his sister, except athletic build and stuff like that. And then I thought this was important. One of the few boys, aside from Joey, that she didn't feel on edge around.
Yes. Yes. I also noted that. Very important. Once again, you can say Hugh Biggs has been rebranded to be a saint, but even Shannon notes here, Hughie has always made her comfortable. She's never been on edge around him. She feels safe around him.
And this is the second time. You know what? I'm keeping tally. All right, so this is the second instance of Hugh Biggs not being rebranded.
And then we kind of get a little foreshadowing here between Gibsie and Claire Bear of the spin the bottle game and where they got their first kiss. We know that's important later and comes in R10 and whatnot. So I honestly left this book here's what I'll say. Already, if you read connected series where you know that there's going to be books on other couples, you look towards the friend group, right? You look towards Shannon and her friend group. Who is her friend group here? It is Claire and Lizzie. So you look to Claire and Lizzie are probably getting books, and then you start trying to pick out who they're going to be with here, right? It's obvious Claire and Gibsie, right? And in my opinion, we get hints at Lizzie leaving later down, and we'll get further into our deep dive, but we do get the hints there in this book and in Keeping.
So this chapter, like I said, it's got Claire and Gibsie kind of teasing each other at the lunch table, and it ends with Johnny walking in, and then we just continue there. So then we have chapter 7 in Johnny's POV, and right away it is mentioned that Johnny was so obsessed with Shannon's eye color, he looked it up.
I love this so much. At Midnight Blues, when he describes it, according to the Google color chart. So cute.
Yeah, and then let's just go back to Shannon's description. My eyes, a shocking shade of blue to boot.
Yep.
And then you have Johnny looking it up on a color wheel. So, okay, and then he describes Claire and Lizzie as two blonde bodyguards. Because he said that Shannon's basically been in the middle of the two of them nonstop since school started. Now, also, on page 81, Johnny can't name either of them.
Mm-hmm. Yep, he knows that one of them was the sister of Hugh Biggs.
And the other had a viper tongue.
Yep.
Yes.
The other blonde was the on and off girlfriend of Pierce O'Neill, another teammate of mine. I couldn't remember the name of Pierce's girlfriend, only that I remembered how fucking vicious she could be with her tongue, and that any lad in his right mind should keep a wide berth.
And, okay, so then here we have a little bit more about Gibsie, and this is, I think, just a really good way of just how it paints Gibsie as this continuous good friend. He makes a comment to Johnny about, like, I'm glad you're not with Bella anymore. I've been telling you how bad she is.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a good friend, you're normally telling your friend to stop sticking your willy in that person, okay? And I just think it's a very interesting contrast to Johnny, who has not said anything to his friend about the woman almost 30 that is, as Gibsie says on page 91 of this chapter, molesting off D.
That he literally describes what he did for Johnny as he got
molesting himself off to D.
Yeah.
And Johnny doesn't say anything. So, Liv, I'm going to let you take it away with a little bit of our rant here, because it circles back to Hughie Biggs, but I don't care. This is where I am going to get very furious, because there's been a lot of arguments, especially over the drinking game that happened in Taming 7, and with people knowing things and not doing things about it. And I think the fact that Gibsie uses the M word specifically to Johnny.
The one I took a molesting off D for so I could get her file. The one you spend your days swapping gooey eyes with at school. He straight says he took a molesting from D for Johnny. And no one bats a fucking eye at this. But everyone is up in arms over Hughie Biggs and this fucking comment in Taming 7. The hypocrisy of this fandom is astounding to me. They hold Hugh Biggs to such a higher standard here. Like, it's absolute mind-boggling to me.
I mean, Gibsie says it.
He
uses the word to Johnny, and nothing is said. So I just want to know, why is Hugh Andrew Biggs held to this high standard, but other characters, when they are literally told by the mouth from their friend, hey, I am, basically pimping myself out to a groomer for you, and you're not saying anything like, oh man, you didn't have to do that. Nothing is said. He just goes, oh, thanks for the file.
Yeah. And then also, I think it's important to note here, and this is going back earlier into the chapter.
His
Johnny
head?
talks, huh?
His head?
No, I was going to talk about Johnny and Bella.
I was going to say, it just kind of goes about another thing that Johnny says about Gibsie that other people have said about Gibsie with it not being okay.
Yeah.
Because
Gibsie's wasn't the brightest crayon in the box. And Johnny notes that he should not be talking about Hughie's little sister that way. But people are up in arms that Hughie has a problem with Gibsie talking to his sister a certain way.
Even
when
Johnny says it's an issue.
Yeah.
What are we doing here?
Yeah. Yeah. But I talked earlier about Shannon and how big she is on promises. I think that ties in here to Johnny hating liars. He hates Bella because she's a liar, and he specifically states he hates liars. So their dynamic, Johnny and Shannon, in my opinion here, she loves her promises. Johnny hates liars. Johnny never lies to Shannon, and that's why they're perfect for each other. I just liked that little comparison here because you had in the previous chapter Shannon being big on promises, Johnny noting that, and then Johnny stating here that he hated liars.
Absolutely.
Also, let's talk about this interaction with Lizzie and Gibsie here because I noted it on page 86. Gibsie yells out, "You're looking well, Claire Bear." Curious, I followed his train of vision, which is so, once again...
And this is all she was doing.
All she does is this.
Yep.
And not only is all she does is this, but Claire is the one who's like, leave me alone, Gibsie. Like, don't you dare sing, Gibsie. Like, what? Lizzie's not over here being Gibsie's biggest fucking
Claire
bully.
is beefing with him more.
Yes, yes. So, once again, your narrative here that Lizzie has always been Gibsie's biggest bully is null and void right here from page 86. And I just find this whole interaction interesting because has Gibsie never shown his desire for Claire around Johnny before?
And that's why it takes me back to that interaction at the lunch table. It's very odd to me.
Yeah.
I really think, because I don't think that Johnny really ever goes to Gibsie's house. I think that they hang out at Johnny's house. And so I just think that Claire and Gibsie primarily spend their time together at their houses. And Johnny wouldn't see that.
I also note right here, very first mention of babies with Claire. Okay.
We should be
very
keeping tally on
page
this
87. Okay. Providing we both make it out of our youth without any accidental babies. And then Johnny goes, Claire's in 3rd year, and she's your teammate's little sister. The fuck is wrong with you, Gibbs? But Hughie's so evil for having a problem with the way Gibsie talks about Claire. Whatever. And Johnny literally says, Gibsie's not the brightest crayon in the box.
Johnny asks, what's wrong with your head?
Yep. And I'd feel pretty fucking bereft if Hughie was to hear him talking about his baby sister like this and murder him. So he knows, like, Hughie, like, talking about his baby sister like this is not okay.
Mm-hmm.
Why can Johnny point all this out, but Hughie cannot?
Because Hughie loves the Viper.
That's exactly what it is. Let's be quite honest here. Do we have any more notes on chapter 7, or are we ready to dive into explosive diarrhea? Gosh, I'm ready to dive into explosive diarrhea.
Hey, chapter 8. Now, first of all, I want to point out a little future disclaimer here. We know from Spotify snippets that we are going to see this chapter again. We
know this is an important chapter for Liz and Hugh.
So we know we're getting this chapter from Hughie and Lizzie, and that's why we need to really look at what Hughie and Lizzie are doing in this chapter. So this is Saturday. This is Gibsie's birthday, which is February 20...
Wasn't it the 19th?
Yeah, I think that. February 19th. That's right. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is on Gibsie's birthday, and Shannon states that she spent all day Saturday cleaning and everything so that she could spend the evening with Claire and Lizzie. And Lizzie is hating on Pierce this entire hangout.
This whole interaction is very, very important to note, okay? I don't know what I ever saw in him. She grumbled for the 100th time. But whatever it wasn't worth giving him my V card. We know now that that's a lie. Not only is that a lie, but then Claire squealed, "You had sex with Pierce? You're not a virgin, Lizzie, but you're only 16. Don't look at me all judgy," Lizzie states, "just because you've never seen a dick." "I haven't," Claire says. And then Shannon says, "I've never even been kissed." And Lizzie retorts, "That's just sad, Shan." "Don't be a bitch," Claire quipped. I think, once again, people are like, look at how mean Lizzie was to Shannon here. Where? This is just girls. Even Lizzie felt being judged by what Claire and Shannon. This is just girls being girls. This is not snarky or mean at any point. So Claire being like, "Don't be a bitch," that's not what Lizzie was intending here, right?
No.
It's just her giving back what she felt she got earlier, right? Being judged. And then they ask her, "When did it happen?" She says, "Thursday." I'm very curious. What happened that Thursday from Lizzie's POV? What are we going to see happen that Thursday from Lizzie's POV in the next book?
Yep, I know.
I'm very,
I'm
very
curious too, because as we all know from releasing 10, her first time with Pierce when she was actually SA'd was 15, 16 months before this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the
she's
thing
been
is,
with
in
him
R10,
regularly.
it makes it a Chloe just absolutely destroyed me with this, but she made it very, very clear that Pierce and Lizzie were hooking up on the daily after this happened. And so I found this really interesting that Claire, Lizzie's bestie, her narrative of this had just happened several days ago. So that's why I'm really interested to see this chapter again.
Yeah, this is going to be fascinating. And we also get a very interesting parallel here with Lizzie, where she tells Shannon, "I'm always okay, Shannon."
Yes.
Because Gibsie says this in T7. This is a line Gibsie repeats often as well
I'm
in
always
Taming
okay.
7.
And this is actually not the first time that Lizzie says, "I'm always okay."
Yeah. So then we, of course, get Gibsie coming in.
Brian's got diarrhea.
Yeah.
He and Claire go deal with it in the bathtub.
But look at Gibsie and Lizzie's interaction here. Okay? Super important to note that I even gave them their own little highlighted tab. Okay? Claire's talking about the Jamie guy, trying to get her to fill up him. And Lizzie states, he got it again. She got her lick back, kind of. And she's telling Shannon the story. And Claire goes, "Not intentionally." "Oh, come off it," Lizzie rolls her eyes. "You know exactly what he would do when you went crying to him."
Your shadow.
"Who?" "Your shadow." "Gibsie," Lizzie filled in. "What do you think he did? He jumped in to defend her honor." She is speaking highly of Gibsie.
I found it very interesting when Shannon asks who, it says that Lizzie smirked, like she was smiling. Her shadow.
Yeah. Yeah. She's like speaking highly.
She wasn't being malicious about it at all.
No. And then Gibsie breaks in the room, and we have our first real interaction here with Lizzie and Gibsie, where he's talking about Brian the cat, and all she says is, "You took your cat for a walk? Boy needs institutionalizing." That is not her being a bit like I would also say something like that to someone who told me they took their cat for a walk. I'd be like, "That's real weird."
Right? Seriously.
And then he goes, "It's not that strange." And she goes, "Did you put a leash on him?" "Obviously." She goes, "Then I stand by my previous statement." She is not in here like going up and Gibsie hardcore, you guys, which is what you make her out to be before Dublin.
Yeah. Now, it is also, like I said, because we are going to get this chapter again, so just these little mentions are important. It is stated that Hughie took Katie home and he was going to pick up the rest of the guys on his way back. They are all going to be celebrating Gibsie's birthday that night.
Yes.
So, also, before we close out this chapter, it's really important that Lizzie is left alone in the Biggs house, and we know that Hughie will be returning very shortly.
Yes. Also, I want to note here, Lizzie straight says, "That boy's an idiot. Our friend is in love with the Class A idiot." and Shannon goes, wait, you think Claire's in love with Gibsie? She goes, isn't it obvious? What girl in her right mind puts up with years of flirting and tormenting if she doesn't have serious feelings for him? She's not at all, like, trying to shit talk Gibsie to Shannon here.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot in theory videos, episodes, especially our Thor and Viper one this week, or last week, I guess, by the time this goes up. Lizzie really does not start to spiral and act vicious towards Gibsie until the spring. After Easter and the Dublin trip, we have a lot of theories on that. We are obviously going to get more into that when we get into Keeping 13, but as of right now, she's just going about her day-to-day life. Gibsie's really not a bother to her. You know, once again, bringing up the Thor and Viper episode, we really stated in that episode that Lizzie wanted to just stay away from him, right?
Yeah.
She just wanted to avoid him. And so it's really not until after certain things that we think are going to happen is when the narrative that everybody is running with starts. Because everybody loves to say Lizzie has been Gibsie's biggest bully and his biggest tormentor forever. And right here shows that that's not true.
Yeah. And then I want to point out, let's go back to our main girl, Shannon, who is able to calm Brian the cat down, which Gibsie notes the only people who've been able to do that are Cav, Johnny, and his mom, right?
Yes.
So Shannon now is included in that group. And Gibsie makes like little things like, hey, you sure you don't want to stick around to meet my boy Johnny? And Shannon's like, oh my God.
Well, I want to touch on that because it actually takes us back to the last chapter or 2 chapters when he was at the table with Claire and he's like, Shannon's your best friend. That would have been some nice knowledge to know.
Yeah.
Like I think he is the biggest wingman, biggest team Shannon Johnny supporter.
Yeah. I think not only that, but I know we talked about this in the Thor Viper. I also think he's the biggest Lizzie Hugh.
I agree. I think he's Mr. Matchmaker.
Yeah. He's Mr. He wants to see his friends happy and he's
and I really okay. He helped Joey and Aoife out of a bind. I wouldn't be surprised if he continues that with Patrick and Katie too.
Yeah,
because
I agree.
We talked about this again in our Thor and Viper. Where is Gibsie going to be in the future? We don't know. What if he's one of the people back in Ballylagan? And then he can kind of be, you know, everybody's therapist and voice of reason. And yeah, so I could see him just kind of being everybody's mascot.
Agreed.
Everybody's cheerleader and supporter. Because we also have said this is, you know, Gibsie called Hughie out in Taming 7. He's like, I know what you're doing. I see what you're doing. And it would be really interesting to see if he takes this approach with Patrick as well.
Yeah.
You know? Because I think Gibsie is the one that calls out when his boys are not behaving very well.
Oh, he definitely does. He clocks them every single time.
Yeah. Okay, so then we go into chapter 9. And then once again, this is just later on in this night. So this is Gibsie's birthday celebration at Biddy's. I did just write this little note, and I think it was interesting because it adds on to the fact that Johnny's parents are just MIA. He uses Biddy's as his normal place to dine when his parents aren't there. Like, I think it was Liam or something takes really good care of him, makes sure he's fed. Also, because, okay, we will get a lot into the Bella stuff, but I want to note that it's really important that Gibsie and Feely are really heavily drinking tonight.
Yes, both of them.
Yeah.
Are drunk.
And there's a lot of theories on Feely and drinking problems. And I think this is where a lot of this is starting. Or continuing.
Yeah, I agree. And then let's get into the Bella of it all, right?
Yes.
She's very touchy-feely, and Johnny straight says, I don't like this. Drunk or not, I didn't appreciate the touchy-feely crap. And he keeps telling her, no, Bella, stop. Please just stop. Jesus Christ, if I kept touching her after she told me to stop, there would be war. Double fucking standards. And she just does not stop. She keeps fucking going to the point where she forces him to kiss her. And then he is like roaring, no means no. Yes. And it says that her friends look at him a certain way. They're all like, ugh, I can't believe you pushed her off. Like, what is this? Mm-hmm. Disgusting behavior. Because I think it's also important to mention that Johnny even states in his POV, as much as she's pissing him off, he doesn't want to humiliate her. Yes.
You know, we've talked a lot about Johnny and his personality and who he is, but he really is a good guy, because as much as this girl is literally assaulting him at this moment and he can't stand her, he still is like, well, I don't want to embarrass her. I don't want to put her in this weird position.
I don't want to hurt her by throwing her off of me. Like, he's very conscious of all of that. Yeah. To the point where he puts himself in danger.
Exactly.
You know? Even though he's pointing out in his head the double standards, that he is being harassed and assaulted. He's still like, I've gotta watch what I do here. So, poor guy. And then we get Hugh Biggs here, right? So Johnny's fed up. He leaves. He's gotten to a cab. Who he knows the cab driver, I guess. This is so interesting to me.
Biddy, so
I'm like, this is so crazy to me. Hughie comes running out. Johnny, wait up, lad. Hughie Biggs called out as he stumbles out of the pub toward me. Grabbing my arm, he pulled me to stop. You'll have to take us with you. And Johnny's like, who's us? And he's like, and he's worried it's Bella. And he's like, no. And he was like, no, not Bella, but all of us, like Patrick and Gibsie, because they're all shit-faced, right? And Johnny goes, why me? And he goes, because we're your babies. My babies? How are you three anyone's babies? You're our captain. We're kind of your responsibility. On the pitch, you gobshite. Come on, Cap, you're the only one with the empty house, and you know Feely's mother will lose her shit if he goes home in this condition, and my mom won't let us through the front. And Gibbs, he's as good as your brother, lad. All unfortunate truths, Johnny notes. Okay? So he lets him in the cab, they go in the cab, and they kind of they take care of Gibsie and they take care of Pat. This is our first real interaction
between Hughie and Johnny. And this is why I said that this crap is so ridiculous. Hughie and Lizzie were never planned from the beginning. Hughie Biggs is rebranded. Then why is Hughie already setting up to be important in the first 9 chapters?
Important? And what is one sentence he says here? He really hyper-focuses on. He starts talking to Johnny about Cormac and Bella. Okay? That is what he talks about. Now, the one where she went home with Cormac on St. Stephen's night and every weekend since. And he grimaces, and then Johnny goes, no, I didn't know. I would have said something, but you were just out of the hospital, and I didn't want her messing with your recovery. Johnny goes, don't worry about it. I've had my suspicions. And then he goes, Ryan's the agent, fucking over his teammate for a girl. Isn't that an interesting parallel that we now know happens with Hughie Biggs? Right? And why don't you mention my next favorite line?
Okay, I was just about to do that.
Let's mention my next favorite line about how Hughie Biggs is the saint. He's not a saint. He's been rebranded to be nice and what. Okay. Why don't you go ahead and mention this next part? I'll leave it to you.
Okay. Hughie states he would have said something to the rugby team about Shannon if Johnny hadn't.
Gotta say, lad, I was relieved when you called the team on the pitch incident and nipped it in the bud, Hughie said with a heavy sigh. If you hadn't, I would have. Poor girl deserves a break. And then he straight says somebody needs to keep looking out for her, Cap. God knows someone needs to.
Okay, I also want to touch on that. He also mentions bad family. We've talked about how Joey is the most perceptive in this entire group, but I also think that Hughie is too. And the fact that Hughie says bad family, because here's the thing. Hughie didn't go to school with any of them.
What is the last line on this page? And then he was gone. What is the last line in R10? And then she was gone. Just thought that was interesting to the point where I wrote, just thought that was interesting. That is the last line of this chapter with his first real interaction with Hughie. That is the last line we have in R10.
Now, before a certain fan base comes for us about the line about Hughie saying, my mom would kill me if I brought Katie home pregnant, that's literally them. They were talking about this.
Yeah.
They like, and Katie is who he's dating. He was bringing up a comparison This is not something to latch on. Oh my God, Hughie and Katie are sleeping together. No. No. Anyway, let's move on to chapter 10.
Let's move on to chapter 10.
This is our final chapter of this
Yes.
episode. So if you have
This
stuck
is the
around with us
last
this
Friday
long,
in February, by the way. This is our very last Friday in February before March. Okay.
yeah, and we thought this was the perfect place to stop because this is where they get their photograph taken, and this is just really where things just hit
Pick
full
up.
speed. Yeah.
So I think there's a lot happening. Also, I think this is Schoolboy Shield night, and I think this is a very, very important night that is going to be important in future POVs. So clocking it here, clocking little things that happen here to look forward to in future POVs,
Hey,
I think
well,
is very, very
right
important.
off the bat, very beginning of the chapter, Lizzie doesn't want to be at the game.
Lizzie, number one, why is Lizzie at the game? Why is Lizzie there? She doesn't want to be there. She says she doesn't like going to the events. Why is Lizzie at the game? And how would Lizzie have gotten to the game? Who would have driven her? Very important to note. She probably arrived.
Yeah,
with
that
Claire
actually
and
takes us
Hughie.
back to this beginning of this episode. Who's driving all the girls? So, how are the girls getting there?
Seriously. Literally, Lizzie's like, I could think of a million things I'd rather be doing than sitting here. So why are you here, Lizzie? Why are you here? Interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then she says, I hate rugby. Claire and Lizzie bickered back and forth for a few minutes before Lizzie stomped off in a huff, muttering something about needing to save her brain cells, but I wasn't really listening to either of them, Shannon says, because she's focused on
She's so
Johnny
focused on Johnny.
Yes. And then Claire even hisses out, what the hell is that? Johnny Kavanagh is staring at you, Shan. Like, seriously, girl, that boy is staring at you. And Shan's like, I don't know what you're talking about now. Hide me, she says.
Yes.
So cute. And she kind of just brushes off. She doesn't want to talk to Claire about it, right?
Mhm.
Also, very interesting line. Tommen's number 10 moved into position in front of the post and quickly kicked the conversion over, securing 2 points, and that was it. It was over. Who won the game for them on this match?
Hughie Biggs.
Who won that? Interesting. Fascinating.
Hughie Biggs.
Hughie Biggs. Hughie Biggs.
Oh, wait, and what was that about Hughie not being athletic?
Anyway, then we get this scene that people love to latch on. Hughie, Claire cried out, running over to throw her arms around her big brother. You were amazing. Cheers, sis, he replied, patting her back as he searched through the crowd. Now, once
That's
again,
what I was saying. He was searching through the crowd.
would have shown up with Claire, but is not with Claire at this
because
moment.
he was patting her on the back and looking.
And then she says, obviously finding what he was looking for in the form of a tiny redhead, Hughie quickly set his sister aside and hurried off in the direction of her. I want that, Claire sighed, watching her brother pick up his girlfriend and swing her around. Obviously not with my brother. I want that someday. Claire is the only one who says something here, and it's this one
Not
sentence
even
about
Shannon notes that they're in love, which... Okay. Hard pause, hard detour. A lot of the arguments in this fandom were about how Hughie and Lizzie were not planned because Katie and Hughie were so seemingly in love in the 13 duet. Okay, now great. Even if that is true, why would we need to tell their story? Why would they be a main couple? If they are seemingly in love and have their shit together in book 1, why do I need to read about that? That makes absolutely zero sense whatsoever.
And what we get of Katie and Hughie here is so little anyway.
This is the first time we've seen Katie, by the way.
So minuscule. And Claire is the only one who says, I want that. Okay.
Not even Shannon notes, not even in Shannon's perspective does she say that this is like a really loving relation. I just think it's funny that Shannon does mention that Hughie's searching.
And not only that, but right here, right after this, we get Gibsie and Claire. Okay? And she notes that Claire's face lights up, right? When she notices Gibsie. You did it. He seemed as excited. She talks about how excited Claire and Gibsie are together, spinning around, that they're clearly into one another here. That is not the same conversation that is
you get with
Hughie
Katie and Hughie. No, not at all.
Anyone, either Claire was clueless, Gibsie was clueless, or they were both as blind as each other, because I could feel, see, and taste the chemistry wafting off of them. Not one of that conversation towards the other couple that just did the same thing.
No.
So there's that. And then we get Johnny coming up. Oh my God, you guys. Hey, wait up. As she's going away, and she's kind of like internally panicking, and Johnny's addressing her. She's like, wait, we were ignoring each other. I thought that was like kind of our thing. And he goes, Shannon like the river. And then we get our first
Shannon like the river.
Shannon like the river.
No,
we get our
shirt.
first hi Johnny, hi Shannon.
Yep. And it just doesn't stop.
It just doesn't stop. It's so cute. Also, I'd like to note, Shannon does internally say all crackers here.
We'll have to keep a tally to see if that happens again.
I was like, oh, so okay.
Maybe that was the rebranding that was done.
I know. Actually, because we know that that's Claire's favorite thing to say in Taylor 7,
Right.
all crackers. We have Shannon saying it here. I'm like, the second I saw that, I was like, PTSD for Taylor. Anyway, we get to them having the picture taken together. Johnny just grabs Shannon and is like,
which
hey,
I also want to touch on that because, you know, as someone who has made it very, very clear he doesn't want to do relationships or anything like that, this is a newspaper. And he's just like, get over here.
Public.
Like,
and he's like, Shannon Lynch. He's sure he says her name. They're like, who is she? He's like, Shannon Lynch.
Yeah, he's, yeah. And this just goes, he's obsessed.
Yeah.
Boy is obsessed.
Down bad for her.
Yeah. And this is why he's a yearner. He's yearning.
Yeah, I love it. God, it's so good. It's so good. And then we get him. She's like, oh, that was really awkward. I don't like that. He's like surprised because he's used to the Bella of it all.
Right, because he's even stated previous chapters before Bella wanted him for the status.
Yes.
And we will get into this, I believe. I think it'll probably be on the next episode, but when they have that big conversation, when they're really getting to know each other in his car, and she says she knows nothing about rugby and doesn't care about his stats, that takes him off guard.
Yeah.
He's like, you care about me as the person?
Yeah. He's shocked by it. So I think we'll get into that later, but we leave off this chapter with Shannon going home and her dad being like, where were you? Right? And she's upset because she could have taken Johnny up on his offer to go to the schoolboy. Once again, I think this is an important event for future POVs, the schoolboy night shield party, right? And she doesn't. She instead gets, the bus breaks down. This poor girl has the worst fucking luck. The bus breaks down. She's trapped for 2 hours. And then she gets home and she tells her dad, hey, the bus broke down. It was a Friday night, so it was a good night. She knew her dad was in a good mood based on the night. She couldn't smell the whiskey on his breath. And he kind of like overlooks it and whatnot. And it ends with her saying Friday was a good day.
Yeah, but we do know that newspaper will come back to.
Yes.
Haunt her.
So, yeah. So, there's a lot of foreshadowing in the entire group here. Yeah. In these first 10 chapters alone, you guys. Honestly. Like, there's so much foreshadowing there that you really don't pick up if you're reading this book for the first time. Because you're so focused on Shannon and Johnny?
No, exactly. And like I said, I've reread it so many times, and I always do my rereads like right before a new release comes, because what I'm doing is I'm looking for the certain context and clues for what we're about to get. Yeah. Right? So like for my last reread, obviously I'm looking for Hughie Lizzie stuff. Last year I was looking for a lot of Claire and Gibsie stuff. Before that I was looking for the Joey side of things going on. So there's just new things to look for every time you read, and I mean I have discovered new things. Like I can't believe that I did not clock my last read about the stuff about Hughie in these first 10 chapters. Yeah. And how he is laid out.
Yeah. And then you just start looking for it here, right? Or like the Gibsie and the molesting line. Like
actually I can't believe I blocked it out of my mind that Gibsie actually states that he molests himself for D, and it's just completely overlooked.
Yeah. So I'm very excited to jump into the next few chapters.
I need more Joey content. I'm ready to dive into some Joey stuff.
And we're gonna get it. We're gonna get it. It's coming up.
Yes, because guys, actually, I didn't even realize these first 10 chapters. We have not gotten Teddy yet.
No.
Yeah.
You get very little doses.
Yeah,
little
we had
sprinkles.
one scene at the house with her in the bathroom, but she only interacted with Joey. So we have not even had a scene really of, we've got the rest of her brothers, that dynamic.
Marie even more, because all we have is in chapter 1, she states that Teddy is a bully to Marie, really.
And that's why I really think right after this whole newspaper, them getting photographed together, this is where things just really take off.
Yeah.
Because as it states in these first several chapters, Johnny tries to avoid her that first month, and then he can't stay. None of them can stay away from each other, okay? Hughie can't stay away from Lizzie. Lizzie can't stay away from Hughie. Patrick can't stay away from Katie. Katie can't stay away from Patrick. There's just, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on, guys.
There's a lot happening, you guys.
It's all in here.
It is. It's all laid out. Chloe is brilliant, and you can really pick it up here that she had outlines for a lot of this and was dropping little hints.
I mean, I have to go back to chapter 2 and just the descriptions on, like, especially Claire and being unfiltered. I mean, it really, really lays the path for what you're going to get down the road.
That line, you guys, chapter 9 ending with, and then he was gone, and then that being the last line and releasing Ted is insane.
Absolutely insane.
Crazy work. So that's why we deep dive. That's why you look into these things. But I'm very excited. Let us know what you guys picked up. Do you think we missed anything? How do you feel it's going with our crew here? Is this your guys' first time reading this series? Oh, good God, I hope not. And then listening to our deep dive on this? Jesus.
You've been very spoiled.
I know. Sorry.
I mean, just a little disclaimer, you should not really be clicking on deep dives for something you're new to.
Please don't do it. No. Also, don't also look at fan art for stuff.
No, I've spoiled myself for that. I just started Fourth Wing finally this week, and I texted her last night. I'm like, is it safe to look up fan art? And she's like, what do you want? I'll send it to you.
Like, don't do it. Especially because you said dragons. I'm like, don't do it. I'll send it to you.
Figured. I'm like, I want to look up what the dragons look like, but I don't feel like that's very safe to do.
It's not. Don't do it. I'll send them to you.
Okay. Well, like we said, guys, this is going to probably be, I think we estimated about a 6-part series for Binding 13. If we have shorter chapters, we might cover a little bit more, but as you can see from this part 1, we had 2 hours of things to talk about for just this setup. And like we said, we haven't even really gotten into the Lynch household yet. We haven't really gotten King Joey.
I know, you guys. But it's because we're deep diving.
I am going to give a little deep dive definition for you, okay? Because I feel like little bit lost in translation here. A deep dive, it's not an opinion piece. It is an in-depth examination or analysis of a topic. And so that is why we are deep diving this. I mean, I texted you, weeks ago when we were mapping this all out, and I said, how many chapters do you think is in total?
Oh my God. I said 300.
Yeah, it's like just under 700 chapters in total. So we will probably have just under 2,000 hours of deep dive material when this is all gone up.
It's fucking crazy, you guys. That's crazy.
And then we'll have to deep dive T10, C10 when that comes out. So
yeah. That's crazy.
Just expect so much from us, you guys.
Yeah.
We love all of this, and not only do we want to do the book deep dives, but we want to continue on with the character deep dives. We had so much positive feedback from our Thor and Viper episode this week. So I did ask people on our Bookstagram, like, what kind of other deep dives do you want? So we had some requests for like Joey and Lizzie's dynamic, Shannon and Lizzie's friendship, Claire and Lizzie's friendship, which I think would be really interesting to touch on, especially after all of this. We just have so much planned, and we think that these deep dives are going to be the best way to get really a lot of this out. And then, you know, just not to repeat so many things again, but like we said at the beginning of this, the reason we wanted to do this is just because there are so many fights in this fandom about how we interpret things. And that's why we wanted to take it line by line by line and tell you guys what the lines are. And then you can kind of tell us what you think on that.
Yeah. Everyone's perspective is going to be different. You know, Ashley and I don't always agree on things. And that's okay. I mean, I'm always right, but it's fine.
That's what makes a fun podcast, though. We don't want to sit here going, yep,
Which we do a lot because we're very similar, but at the same time, we disagree. As we did this episode.
Could you imagine just one of us doing all the talking while the other one just sat here going...
I mean, that'd be nice for me if you want to do that. I'll be the one to sit here.
That's how much I talk, so...
I know. You do love your Boys of Tommen.
I do.
But it shows. You're passionate about it.
But it brought me to where I am today. It brought me that crazy interview with Chloe that I'm still riding a high on. It brought you me. I know. It brought me you. So it's just, I can't complain. As much as this fandom has so many negatives, the positives has brought me has just overweighed all of that. And with that, we will see you guys for part 2 next week. Make sure you are subscribed to us. Like always, make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you are following us on Bookstagram. That is where we drop a lot of our information and our schedules, all of that. Make sure you are joined in our Discord. If you are not, we're having lots of fun chats over there. Like I said, I just started reading Fourth Wing, so everybody's talking about that too. Just lots of fun stuff.
Yeah. And we will see you guys next time. Thanks for joining.
Bye.
Bye.